everybody. The Lost Guys have returned, or is it the returners have gotten lost, guys? Well, we're still working on that name, but Nolan, I'm sorry, that was a bad joke, isn't it?
The new name is Name Under Construction. I'm hereby it now.
So we'll forever be Name Under Construction. But what is not under construction nor debate is the subject of today's discussion, which is, well, how should I put this? Can we go? Can we
Power Rangers?
Go Power Rangers? No, actually, you know what? That's a really good guess. It could have been Power Rangers. It very well could have been. But in fact, we are going to be talking about a little known series. Well, I mean, I guess it was known for a while in the past, but it is the GoBots. Hooray!
Yay! GoBots! Yeah! I found out what this was like 2 days ago.
Yes. So if you were not a child of the 80s, you might be looking at this and thinking, why are we talking about Transformers? And you know what? You may not. You
uncultured swine. Don't you see it says GoBots right there?
Yes. And this is not, it was not a Transformers spinoff, although now it is actually owned by Hasbro. And so they are actually in the Transformers universe. But
did they acquire Tonka, or did they just
acquire
say,
Tonka?
You know what?
They acquired Tonka and all the intellectual property, but we'll get to that in a bit. So Tonka is the company behind these GoBots, and they are robots that turn into vehicles, and they turn into classic vehicles. Like I think one of them was a Rolls Royce. They turn into like Apache helicopters, and they also turn into wildly futuristic cars, jets, motorcycles, bulldozers, you name it. They're very, very prolific. And they are unfortunately more or less forgotten these days, which is why we're bringing them back, at least for the next conversation. So,
yes,
Martin,
for the next 30-40 minutes, you're about to have your life engulfed with nothing but GoBots. Next thing you know, your life is going to become GoBots.
And you're going to want to go and get these. You're going to want to go out and get these GoBots.
Yes.
Oh boy, this is going to be a very punny episode, I think. Anyway, Martin, Nolan, did any of you guys ever have any of these fantastical little robots when you were growing up?
I'll let him go.
All right. I did actually. Yeah, I had GoBots, had Transformers. I thought the build quality was actually better on the GoBots, but that makes sense because they were Tonka tough.
Yeah, and so that is there you go. We're getting there. But that actually is a very, very good point, because Tonka, for those who are not aware, or those who do not have kids perhaps, was the company behind all of those really awesome metal construction vehicles that you'd be able to often play around with or find on a sandbox at your local park. So they were a big company back in the 80s. They still are to a certain degree, although, well, no, they're not actually. The Tonka brand is still somewhat well known. However, at the same time, Tonka was very, very huge, back in the 80s, back when life was simpler. And so I'm just going to throw up a picture of a Tonka truck, what I think is a classic Tonka truck right here. And you can see it's like this.
Oh, that thing is nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like you got this like handle that you can crank that claw digger on. The wheels are plastic, but the rest of the body is like tough metal, right?
Those things held up too. I had a Tonka truck for years, and that thing could go through a war. That thing was freaking hard as steel.
Yeah,
Hangry,
man.
You're a bit of a toy collector, right?
Me?
Yeah, I know, Hangry.
Yeah, we all have very
much. So, if I remember correctly, Tonka had a sort of a lifetime guarantee type of thing, where if you broke one of their toys in the course of regular play, you get a lifetime supply of Tonka toys or something like that, right? Wasn't that a policy for a while?
You know what? That does sound very vaguely familiar. I would like to
miss those days when brands would do that. The lifetime warranty, and they'd replace it like that, and then they had people who take advantage of it, or brands were just cheap, and they didn't care. I mean, look at that. Look how that thing's been through probably like 3 different kids.
that thing's rust. Like, I mean, I vaguely remember one time in the play yard, somebody had a Tonka truck and they just took it and they whacked this other kid with it. And that kid was out cold. Like these things are
kill somebody with that.
Weapons. Yeah. So, anyway, apart from murdering people with them, Tonka was also a very popular.
Pretends I didn't laugh at that.
And they, now this is an interesting debate. They were a direct competitor. The GoBots were a direct competitor with Transformers, and they actually came out a bit earlier than the Transformers did. Surprisingly,
what?
Oh
yeah, they came out about a year ahead of the Transformers being released, and
so the ripoff did better than the original.
Yeah, well, just like Oreos and Hydrox cookies.
But here's the thing, though: both GoBots and Transformers were pulled from Japanese IP. So originally, the GoBots were called Machine Robo in Japan, whereas the Transformers were pulled from a variety of different types of series, the main one being called Diaclone. And I am not sure exactly whether or not Tonka kind of got wind of the fact that Hasbro at the time was planning on releasing Transformers and they tried to beat them to market. I think there were some shenanigans there, if memory serves. But all that to be said, it ended up coming down to a real slugfest, a real drawn-out fight between the GoBots and between the Transformers, because what they had done, and both companies had done, was taken the original designs of these characters and the toys. Like, I mean, the toys were already pre-made, and gave them personalities, names. They split them into different factions. They created the good guys versus the bad guys. So with the Transformers, it was the Autobots and Decepticons, but with the GoBots, it was the heroic Guardians and the
Renegades.
The Renegades, right? And
jig is up.
Yeah. So all that to be,
the jig is up. The news is out. These toys are on the market. Go buy them.
The jig was up. The news is out. These toys were on the market. Yeah. And so it was a real battle royale between the Transformers and the GoBots. And eventually, as we all know, the Transformers won. And what I'd be curious about is to hear a little bit of your thoughts on as to why the GoBots did not end up succeeding where the Transformers did, basically. And so I know both of you guys have watched an episode of the show. What were your thoughts?
Okay.
We'll start with
someone
Nolan.
has a complete fresh slate too, because I never had heard of GoBots. So I think the reason it didn't catch up like Transformers did is two reasons primarily. And I'm not an expert on Transformers, nor do I claim to be in any sense. But from a marketing perspective, what I can tell is I think the designs of the Transformers slap a lot more. I mean, these are good designs. Like that villain dude right there, I thought he was the best part of the show. I thought he was cool. The voice, that face is like, that's B+A grade villain right there. I love that dude. I think, no offense, I hope I don't make like thousands and thousands of people mad by saying this. I think the main character, which was Leader One, I believe his name was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was a bit, from the one thing I saw him in, a bit weak compared to like the presence of an Optimus Prime. His design looks a little too humanoid, I think, for something that's supposed to be a robot vehicle hybrid. And the voice isn't exactly as like robotic. I heard a great point once by Tom Connor's Midnight Edge After Dark. Great dude, check him out. And something that finally, because I did not grow up with Transformers. I saw the Bay movies, and we know they are not that great of movies. And I really respect the 80s Transformers. But Optimus Prime was very much a father figure to a lot of the latchkey kids that grew up in the 1980s and such. And Optimus Prime has like this kind of stern but loving dad presence to him. And just look at these Transformers designs. Like they're I think they just, if you had to choose between the two, I think you'd go for the one, a little bit more detail, a little more edge. And I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong here. You guys would know this better. Did Transformers, the 1980s cartoons, usually have humans in it?
Yeah, they did.
They did? Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess it was like this show too. I thought that might be a reason, but I guess not. So I think Transformers just did a little better, had the catchier theme song, and I think this show was pretty good. I liked seeing, I think it's very mellow, like a lot of 80s cartoons really relax me. I think there's a lot of charm in its design and character style, and I definitely see all the perks of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, from the way the characters ponder to kind of the pacing, the music type. It's interesting seeing like more actiony with Hanna-Barbera. I'm not used to that. But no, I think the reason is I think the other company, Hasbro, I think they just did action and boys better. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like I said, I thought the build quality on at least the initial GoBots was better than the build quality on the Transformers. But Transformers was a better show. It was better animated, and there's only one Peter Cullen.
Yeah,
voice Optimus Prime.
100%. I agree with you, Nolan. I think
it wasn't that GoBots was bad. I think they just got beat. It's like when you have two elite teams playing in like the playoffs or whatever sport you follow, if you follow sports. And the Monday night analysts are always like, or Monday morning are always like, well, they lost because of A, B, and C. When in reality, a lot of times when it's a close game, it's just the way of the win. You just got outbeat. I mean, pack it up, try again. Like, it happens sometimes.
Well, my view on it is that I feel that that Tonka, so in both the cases of Transformers and the GoBots, you had a company that looked to Japan, saw these really cool toys and designs, and then brought them, localized them, essentially, I guess, is in the 80s, and brought them over to America. And where I think Hasbro succeeded, where Tonka failed, is that they still kept the uniqueness and the coolness of those original designs when it came to the media, and particularly the cartoons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a picture right now of, and just a contrast to show you what I mean. So the bad guy, one of the main bad guys of the GoBots, his name is Psykill, right? And he is, as you know, as you said, this kind of real bad guy, this kind of dyed-in-the-wool villain. But then when you look at him, and I'm just going to try to find this photo that I had lined up. Basically, well, here, okay, this is him, right? And it looks like he's got a pretty rough case of, 5 o'clock shadow on his face. Maybe that's, I don't know, mustard yellow or whatever.
The head reminds me of Master Control Unit from Tron.
Right? And so that's okay. And he's got like the domino mask on and stuff. But this is what the actual figure and the original design, and I hear it.
Oh no, they didn't. Did they?
What?
It wasn't one of those kind of things, because these are there to promote the toys. Oh, so that's barely even the same thing.
Right. So that is the original design. I know it's a little bit of a small picture.
It's like the difference between the ugly Squidward head and the handsome Squidward head from the memes. What the heck?
Yes. And so, and then another one is Turbo, which was the red car. And
which, by the way, I do gotta. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to give some flack to the show. These names are so generic compared to Transformers, which could be a good thing if you're trying to be like, "Mommy, I want Turbo," but like compare that to Megatron. Like,
yeah, and half of them are a pun in some way. Wasn't like the female one like Race Her or something like that?
Yeah. So the difference between those is that they actually had Marvel Comics writer by the name of Bob Budiansky come up with all of these names, and Jim Shooter as well. So they had these actual creatives coming up with the names for the Transformers. Whereas I think with Tonka and the GoBots, they just had, they sat down in the boardroom one day and they were like, okay, what do we name this helicopter guy? How about Copter? Brilliant. Get a raise. So
what do we name this girl? Racer.
Racer. Yeah. Crash, her. So this is the original toy, and it's funny because on the packaging they used the original design for the figure, right? And I mean, you look at that head sculpt, that's cool. Like that thing looks neat, right? But then
wait, was that the actual like mainline toys, or was
that
this
was this was the mainline toy? But
compared
then
to the Transformers? That's a okay. I won't be that mean.
They were simpler. They didn't they weren't as complex and as Transformers, but they stood up to more punishment.
Because watching this show, okay, I like this show from what I saw.
Wait, but before you guys go on, I got to show this comparison because this is the animation model that they used for the show. And you look at his face and he looks like a clown. And that is one of my more
like my septic tank than he does the toy.
The face looks like that sloth from Zootopia.
Yes. And so that is one of my chief criticisms with GoBots is the fact that they basically made these dudes ugly as sin. Like none of these animation designs are awful. Like Leader 1, when he talks, he's got yellow teeth, right? Like Scooter, who's a little motor scooter there, her sounds like Jar Jar.
For some reason.
He's cross-eyed. And it's just like, you look at this, and of course they can't compete with cool designs like the Transformers.
No.
So that
and I feel so bad. I feel so bad because people who worked hard on this show. Like I said, I like the show. And I was kind of mean about the Septic King commented earlier. But like, I like what they had going here. But there's like, whether it's their fault, there's no cohesion. And I hate to sound like a jerk, but I mean, I'm sorry, they just got beat. I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah. And so there were a lot of things, I think, little things. The designs, the character designs in the cartoon were so off compared to the actual toys. And there's an argument to be made that the same thing was kind of with the Transformers, but they hewed much closer to the figures that they were based on. The other thing too is that the voices, they had this weird, like kind of echoey, oh no, Leader 111, we gotta, like it was
the voices were very inconsistent though, in my opinion. Like there wasn't a lot of cohesion. Like I feel like some characters
like this. Nolan,
yeah,
quick.
Exactly.
You must.
Some sound like that. Others are like, I sound like Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like if I was talking to the creator right now, I'd hate because I feel like I'm just slamming on this show. But I will say it seems like one of those shows where it's like you see someone and they have like this concept art or like these early videos, and you just see a little bit of gold or like a sparkle in the eye of like where this could go. Kind of like what Transformers did and fully embraced. And this feels like this could be great, but it's just not there yet. It's
well,
like
some of what we're talking about here is maybe a problem with Hanna-Barbera, because a lot of the voice actors they used were their stock voice actors.
True enough.
Like I'm pretty sure Leader 1, I recognized him from like was it Galtar and the Golden Axe or Lance or something? You guys remember that one? Or maybe you don't. But like some of their superhero shows, the voice actors showed up often in Hanna-Barbera productions. And these are the same people that made Yogi Bear. Cheap cartoons, not a big deal. Then again, it's not like anybody was breaking the bank over the weekly Transformers budget either.
But still, though, I gotta say that was something I did notice while watching. Is it's actually pretty impressive because I know this was very much out of Hanna-Barbera's usual type shtick, and I assumed it was probably a lot of in-house people working on it. And I got to give them credit because this is probably really hard for them at the time, and they seem like they, for the most part, at least animation-wise, I think they succeeded because I don't have much qualms with the animation. I think it turned out, granted, it's not going to be as exciting because it's Hanna-Barbera, and there's just a lot of more kind of basic things compared to your more eye-catching Transformers or Ninja Turtles. But I think they did succeed compared to where they could have been, if that made sense.
What do you guys think about the scale? Transformers, when humans are with the Transformers, they're absolutely dwarfed.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times the GoBots, the humans aren't that much smaller than a lot of these.
I actually like it because one thing that drove me crazy in like the not good Bay Transformers movies was like that the humans just feel so irrelevant, and when you make them really small in those shots next to the Transformers, it makes it look even worse, like just how irrelevant they are. But like, I like that, like, for example, in the episode I saw, which was, I believe, called The Final Conflict, there's a cool scene where there's a little bit of tension between the robot villain and the human villain. Like, they like to backstab each other and all that good Saturday morning cartoon villain stuff. I liked how the humans actually kind of make an impact in this show. Like, they could take like a weapon and like shoot at the robot and like actually do something. I like it when they're not irrelevant and they can actually connect a bit. I know they're not as maybe ambitious or dwarfing over the humans as a result, but I like it, the downgrade, honestly.
Yeah, there's an argument for that.
Yeah, and it did make the humans more relevant, because you always felt in the Transformers that you might be concerned they would be squished or stepped on. At the same time, we're all here to watch these robots slugging it out and stuff, and having the humans around was something that always kind of annoyed me. Although I do recognize as I've gotten older that you need that human element, like that sort of gateway character that you can.
Well, you didn't buy the human action figures?
Well, they never had it. Those were called GI Joes. But
valid point.
The toys themselves, though, I found them to be a lot more accessible, I guess, than the Transformers figures. And what I mean by that is something that happened to me, and this still haunts me to this day, is that it was my birthday and we were out of town, and my parents said, like, okay, well, let's go to the local hardware store, where they also had toys there.
Is this the tragic backstory?
This is the tragic backstory. And so we went, and I really wanted a Transformer, and they didn't have any, but they had GoBots, and they had, see if I can pull up a photo of this guy. They had this figure here. Just a moment. It was one of the cars, and it was where are you? Oh God, I got too many tabs open. But anyway, that's all they had. They had no Transformers. They just had the GoBots. And my parents kind of said to me, they're like, well, look, this guy here, you can get a GoBot now, or you can wait until we go to another store a couple of days later or what have you, and we'll get you the Transformer. And obviously, being the kid that I was like, no, I need it now. And so I got it. And yeah, there was instant buyer's remorse before I even knew what buyer's remorse was.
Hoping it's going to be one of those stories where it's like, yeah, this one was actually really rare.
And then I took over the world. But no, it was it was a bit of a, in retrospect, I regretted not waiting, because there's nothing wrong with the toy per se, but it just, you look at this guy, like, he's got a windshield for a face, and where's the personality, right? Like, there's,
in the cartoon, it was weird too. Like,
does he even have a
actually, no, it's better in the cartoon because they kind of bob their heads up and down. It's kind of charming. The toy kind of looks, though, a lot more empty without having the voice to go with it.
Right?
Does it light up or anything?
No, it didn't light up. It just transformed. And I mean, it transformed well, and it turned into a decent car. But I mean, like, look at this.
But they're not great robots.
Like
what is this? It's like if you took the Cloud City speeder thing that flies around, you tried to make a robot out of it.
Well, he turns into a truck, like a semi-truck, right? But it's just, I don't know.
Ew.
These are another one, like a fake
Transformers, like,
yeah,
where they're trying to get the concept on the ground, but they're just not clicking.
Maybe.
I feel like I'm such a snob in this episode. I feel bad, but
it's okay.
They just don't
let it out.
Well, it's missing something. It's missing something, guys.
You're a grown man seeing for the first time something that Hangry and I saw as kids. So yeah, you're gonna have a different perspective.
Yeah, it's like, and I like it. It's just, it feels like it's like you have an amazing bag of chips, but there's literally a pizza place right next door, and it's not the fault of the chip place, but dang, that pizza's good.
So I got a question for you both. If you looked at this photo and you knew nothing about Transformers, which one would you say was the good guy and which one would be the bad guy? Just from the visual cues, and why would that be?
Well, I would say a Morning Star is more of an intense weapon. So, and the look on his face, Megatron's face,
Right.
looks shouty and angry, and also he's about to swing down, and then you've got Optimus here. He's got the golden axe that seems more heroic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would look at it and say, yeah, the red and blue guy's probably the hero.
Okay.
I don't know what young me would have said, but that Megatron has like kind of a gray black on his glove, more muted colors. Yeah, I don't know why his super weapon's pink, but yeah, he seems like he'd be the villain, I think.
I am impressed that the artist was able to get static tension into robots. That's impressive.
Agreed.
Well, okay.
Actually, this episode makes me like Transformers more.
Hold that thought though, because what I find really interesting, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but when you look at you compare the leaders, the good guys, does this not almost look like Optimus versus Megatron?
Oh yeah, my God, you're right.
Leader 1 does turn into a jet that's vaguely, American F series kind of jet.
Uh-huh. But then you look at this and you've got the red. So where I'm going with this is basically they did a complete inversion of the color scheme.
Oh my God, you're right.
The normally heroic red, white, and blue character, which you would associate with
America
heroism, basically, was the bad guy, while the gray and black, and to be kind of blunt, kind of bland, character was the good guy. And so I wonder if if you just like, even if you look at their faces, it's hard to tell which one is the bad guy here, right?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And why does the bad guy have, of all colors, blue, red, and white? Well, of course, American flag, but like, that's a really weird decision to incorporate the flag in it. But like, just like those colors are just so colorful, warm. Like anything you see like a kid's toy, red truck, blue ball, like silver car. Like, why not like black, gray, morbid brown? I don't know, rusty. Like, why is your villain as colorful as a candy bar?
And doesn't Leader 1 have a vaguely skullish sort of look?
He's got no nose.
Also, he looks like he's in between the prongs of a plug. It's even got the hole bore into it.
Yeah, I never made that connection before. Wow,
really?
So
that's one of the first things I noticed.
I wonder if there was at some subconscious level, kids just never really cottoned on these characters in the way that they did Optimus and Megatron, because the color, like the colors were inverted. The heroic colors were evil in this depiction, which kind of goes against your innate sense, like especially if you grew up in North America with the American flag and everything, like Superman and all of that. It's that's always been kind of something on my mind about GoBots and why these characters haven't quite grown and people haven't quite latched onto them as much as possible. And of course, I'm not discounting the fact that their voices kind of sucked. Like Peter Cullen and
hey, the villain had a good voice. The villain had a good voice.
All right. Frank Welker did this show. He's Scooter.
Wow.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say one more thing in designs before we shift over to the voices.
Yeah,
this is blowing my mind, your point, Hangry, because like, take the villain, get rid of the skull. Just don't look at the skull.
Yeah.
Everything else about him is so friendly. Like you have the big old wheels, the bright colors. It looks like, oh, he's going to be here to save the day. Remove the skull, put like a happier face on that. And then the villain, like, oh, watch out, kids. You might get shocked if you touch the outlet. And look at the black and the pants and the rigid. And look how cocky and happy he looks. The big old goggles. He's a stranger. Stay away from him. Like,
pumpkin orange
is not
a heroic color.
Choice. No.
Hey, I just noticed something else.
Are not good for hero versus villain.
What's
I just
that?
noticed something else on the villain. If you like below what is the chest, I guess it would be the stomach area.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you see the white with the two black verticals?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the red immediately below that, it looks like a character from Cars. You see what I'm saying?
I'm never going to be able to unsee that now.
Oh man. Oh man.
Darn you, Martin.
I do what I can.
Like,
He's completely nerfed Psykill.
yeah, I think it's something deep here. Like, I think that's a great point. I think part of why this didn't really take off is the main character and the main villain, that duality of good versus evil just isn't there. And the design, and when you don't have that, they don't have as much to really pit them against each other. And when the designs are already kind of falling flat compared to Transformers, like, yeah, it's messing up in a lot of regards. And not to mention, if you're a kid, you have the toys, you're going to be staring at these things all the time. And if they're not slapping, they ain't slapping.
Also, Leader One looks like he's wearing flared bell bottoms because of the fins for the plane.
True enough, eh? But I mean, it's something that only really dawned on me after I think I was listening to somebody like comics, like Stan Lee, perhaps. And you notice that in all of the original comics, or sort of the older style comics, the good guys always had these primary colors, whereas the bad guys always were like purple or gray or
it was pretty obvious they were the villain.
yeah. So I mean, again, looking at this photo of the toys, which have more neutral facial expressions on them and whatnot, if I had to choose, I would pick the red, white, and blue guy as being the good guy.
Everyone on the left I would pick as the good guy. Everyone on the right I would say are the villains, except maybe the black one, and that's completely inverted from what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So that's always something that's kind of stuck in my mind, and I've always kind of wondered about that. But anyway, like the toys themselves, they weren't bad. Like they were solid. I still have like the red guy, the Turbo. Like he survived trips to the sand lot, into the bathtub. Like he's a bit rusted and whatnot, but he's still alive and kicking. Some of them, they were more prolific, they were cheaper, they were more readily available than the Transformers were. And I think that's partly because the Transformers were more popular and people were just buying them a lot more. So
Transformers probably ironically helped the sales of these.
Yeah, they did, because they were kind of like the consolation prize. Like if you couldn't find a Transformer, like in my case, you had to sell it for the GoBot, right? But at least it was something. So it's it was a really interesting phenomenon. But I think there were a lot of reasons for why they didn't ultimately succeed or live on into posterity and have Michael Bay make movies of them decades later.
You know what? There's still a chance. Like maybe we need to acquire the GoBots IP. We'll have a hot model on a motorcycle. We'll have the GoBots, and we'll just, you know what? We'll do it justice. We'll revamp. We'll put new paint. We'll do new scenarios, explosions. You guys with me?
Let's do it.
Yes.
One of the other,
Martin, you're the lead.
All right.
Sorry, yes, Martin, you are the lead. But I was going to say one of the
Angry, you can voice the villain.
But I think, when you get to the lore of the GoBots as well, one of the things that I feel might have contributed or did not contribute to their popularity was their origin story. And so this might just be completely subjective, But I always felt that there was a little bit of body horror with these figures. Like in the lore, they were supposed to like, so the Transformers were, everyone knows from the planet Cybertron, they were these robots that kind of evolved into being robots, and then they, they had a war, they fled the planet, they crash landed on Earth, and Bob's your uncle. But the lore of the GoBots was that they used to be human-like beings until they decided
the Borg.
Well, they built themselves robot bodies, and they made themselves into robots, essentially, I guess, with with organic brains and whatnot.
Oh,
and
God, I know, like where we're going.
Yeah, basically. And so I know some people are kind of into that sort of thing, but in my case, I remember as a kid being a little bit weirded out by that, thinking like, oh no, like they're metal, they can't feel anything, like they don't have, like it just
it feels more like
really...
the backstory of the villain as opposed to also the backstory of the heroes, you know?
Yeah. You know what? That's a really good point. A villain is the one who would swap their body out to be a robot.
Didn't Transformers mess with this a little bit with Beast Wars later on?
Well, in Beast Wars, they were still robots.
Had been evolved from...
No. They were still robots, but instead of scanning a Lamborghini to turn into, they scanned a cheetah. And so they created this sort of organic shell around them, but they were still robots on the inside.
Right, but when that was Beast Machines, right? And then when they went, Beast Wars was the one where they were on Earth, and then they went back to Cybertron and found out that like the planet had been organic at one point.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, people don't like to talk about Beast Machines. But it was...
I thought Beast Wars was supposed to be one of the good ones.
But Beast Machines was the unofficial, or season 3 of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it was the story of the GoBots was very similar to another classic character, which I don't know if you guys had ever heard of. And I'm going to throw this. Hang on a second. I'm going to put him up. This guy actually predated the Transformers and the GoBots, and his name was Rom. And Rom was a not a comic book character. He was from the planet Galadar, and he was like this kind of robotic looking dude. But their entire backstory was, again, they were this humanoid, like they looked like humans. And in order to become these space knights, they basically had to get themselves cut up. Like I think they ended up becoming these sort of cyborgs, these metallic creatures, and giving up their humanity in order to inhabit these metal bodies. And then there was like this entire plot where once his mission is over, he might be able to get turned back into a human. But for me as a kid,
that one has a plot line like, hey, you're kind of trying to get to that. And usually comics are usually a bit darker than the cartoons were, you know?
They are, but I mean,
more of the Saturday vibe.
In my case, I always was a little bit weirded out or freaked out by the idea of giving up your body in order to go into like a robotic thing.
Oh my God, yes. It is one of the scariest things out there, period. Like, if you're writing horror, that's a great thing you can do.
So for that to be the GoBots backstory, I feel like that was something that bothered me as a kid. And I don't know, maybe I was just a one-off. Maybe a lot of kids were like, neat, I want to turn into Scooter or whatever.
I would have found it weird too, and I wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah, I if I had known that was the backstory, it probably would have been disturbing, but I guess it just washed over me. I didn't catch that.
Well, I don't think they really expound on it very much. Like they really didn't give these guys much of a backstory. And then once in a while too, I found that the toys, while some of them were really good, they also had a few disturbing elements to them. So this is one of the toys that I had, and it was like this mobile command base. And I mean, I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
That's
like you had,
cool.
It was like this.
That.
Like this futuristic tank. It turned into kind of like an AT-AT. So if you could get your Star Wars going on a little bit. And then it opened up, and if you press that button at the top of his head there, his lights would kind of like the eyes would like blink back and forth, and it'd be like alert, whatever, right? And you had like a little elevator and stuff.
It looks like more like something the villain would have, but that's still cool.
Yeah, but I'm gonna zoom in here for a second, because each of the levels that were in this toy had a different kind of theme to them. And so, you had one of those levels was, for example, hang on, where did that photo go? Oh gosh, come back. So one of those levels was, for example, like this GoBot cafeteria, and you could read like, I don't know, oil spaghetti or whatever. It was kind of neat and stuff. But then when you look to the left, there's this one called the GoBot dematerializer. Like, do you see
The what?
do you see the red guy there? And he's basically in this like time tunnel-ish type of environment, and half of his body has just been like vaporized, and he's in mid vaporization, right?
What the heck? These guys are supposed to be the good guys.
Well, I will remind you that the transporter does kill you when you step into it in Star Trek.
Right, but this is where, right underneath there you've got the interrogation center, and then
What? Where?
like underneath where that guy, do you see what, like, the on the left, like the
Oh my
red
god,
guy
it
there?
actually does have an interrogation center and a toy. What?
Well, yeah, you got a diesel board somewhere.
And then you can't see the writing very well, but if you look to the top right, there's like enemy reprogramming center, and they're basically like, they've got a guy
camp.
and they're brainwashing him and stuff. So
This is the type of crap I'd come up with. What is this?
So basically, I guess the story is that if you can't reprogram your enemy, you execute him by putting him into a dematerializer, and like it's not an instant death. You slowly destroy his body as he's painfully aware that he's being dematerialized.
Well, and the next enemy knows.
All right. You know what? I'm going to bring some new light into this show, okay? Maybe all along the heroes were actually the villains. They have the wrong colors. They have 3 horrible things you can have. God forbid you're a villain, you ever get caught by these guys.
Right?
Because they've lost these guys are not I'm not backing these. I'm going with the villains. At least they're cool.
So it was one of those things where it seemed perfectly normal as a kid, and then you look back at it and you're like, this was not.
Can we put this on the dark
not
cartoon
Teletubbies.
conspiracy iceberg or something like that? Like trademark it. The GoBots conspiracy. Put that on there. I'm trademarking it now. The GoBots are actually the villains.
Like somebody
And they just that episode where they took the humans away to go like join them. Watch it. They're going to be enslaved to them now. It's tragic. I'm sorry I ruined everyone's childhood.
like the contrast between going to the cafeteria and having, oil gasket spaghetti right after
You're just walking with the tray. Like you just see them, like the robots holding the tray. You see them behind them. The torture. And there's like, all right, they ran out of milk in the cafeteria, Joe.
Like, did you end up cleaning up that robot's ashes we just vaporized? Oh no, man. I got to run back and do that.
Man, I can't get my day going until I have a cup of oil.
Yeah.
Frank screaming up there.
George, I can't sleep after all that torture in the torture room. Less interrogating, please.
Basically, yeah. So I mean, there was this weird sadistic streak there, like some guy at Tonka, and that
Some guy on Tonka, like he must have been going through a divorce or a breakup or something, because this dude was this is coming fan fiction here. My God.
And that came from Tonka, because that was like most of the toys were
Tonka tough.
the Japanese, but in this particular instance, it was that whole command center thing was created by some guy in North America who probably was going like he probably had a really, really bad day, or was like,
can we call this guy? Can we give him a hug? I'm worried for this dude if he's still alive. I worry about him.
So yeah, I mean, if that's what the good guys command center looked like, I'd be afraid to see what the bad guys would be.
Well, I do think I remember seeing the bad guys disintegrate a guy in the movie. Yeah, the pilot movie.
For a second, I was like, there was a movie?
Yeah, the first like 5 episodes were.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. So what I probably saw was probably the end of the movie, I'm guessing.
Probably. Oh, did you notice the voice of one of the bad guys was Odo from Deep Space Nine?
No way.
Yes. Also the chef from Little
The
Mermaid.
Muppets?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Muppet.
No, Odo from
Bird.
Deep Space Nine is also the chef from Little Mermaid. You know, Les Poissons and all that.
Oh, René Auberjonois, who sadly
Yes, but I wasn't going to butcher his name because I respect him as an actor.
Well, it's that he was a good actor. And it's sad that it was his untimely departure from this plane. But
did a great episode of Columbo.
That's true. But one thing about the GoBots, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but when the popularity of the franchise was starting to wane, Tonka, in their desperation,
this franchise had popularity.
It did. It was popular.
Oh, so it did catch on a bit then.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
not as big as Transformers, but people knew GoBots.
So it was a bit more than just the alternate. Okay, that's good. At least it had some success. I think it was earned.
According to Wikipedia, they're saying that GoBots were well known enough, they were popular enough to last for quite a few years. They went from 1983 to 1987, and they were the line sold well initially, but was overtaken by Transformers. Per Wikipedia, it says that they were part of the robot sensation that swept the nation for a short time. And then they were acquired by Hasbro in 1991. But I guess in their waning years, prior to them kind of pulling the plug on everything, Tonka, they created an offshoot of the GoBots called the Rock Lords. And the big gimmick.
What? Yo! It's not just a boulder.
It's a robot that turns into a boulder. And so that.
Oh my god! Okay, screw everything before we talked about this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in this God-given earth. They made rocks a toy.
Yeah,
so this is amazing.
It was like it was it was as if the pet rock met Transformers essentially, and they were literally robots that turned into plastic rocks, but rocks nonetheless. I
gotta say, these are charming.
You know what? I had the one on the left, and the thing I loved the most about that one was the fact that he had quite a lot of articulation. His arms could move, his legs could move. He had knees, he had elbows, he had shoulders, which was a pretty big deal back then because half the time, a lot of these robots, you couldn't pose them for the life of you, right? So, but then he turned into a boulder, and it's kind of like
what makes this toy line from not sucking, I think, is that paint job. Like the detailing, it goes such a long way. It went from looking like kind of like some of the more 80s-esque aesthetics too. It reminds me of like the 90s, like Godzilla Trendmasters toys, if anyone in the audience remembers those. Like, it's got a really nice charm there with some of the blushes and stuff. I love it.
But I look at this and I think to myself, this is insane, right? Like the robots that turn into rocks. But then I recall as a toy with the guy on the left, I think his name was Boulder. I was playing with him. I was fiddling with him. I transformed him into his rock mode, and he kind of flew around as this inanimate rock. And I think even He-Man had these guys who turned into comets. Like they basically folded up into these kind of rocks as well. So I guess there was something there.
I think we need to go to the next step, and it's not just rocks, but actually, I was thinking like architectural monuments that turn into robots. So like a Eiffel Tower, Temple of Angkor Wat.
It's like Monument Mythos before Monument Mythos.
Sure.
Didn't they do that in the movie Big, where Tom Hanks has that robot that turns into like the Empire State Building?
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. I remember the baby corn. I forgot the.
Oh god! Now you're making me think of the "Don't be racist, I'm a building" thing with the Empire State Building being sent to you. Now I'm scared. Didn't remember that.
Yeah, no, Rock Lords. I mean, the amount of cocaine someone must have been snorting when they came up with this. Like, you can just imagine the board meeting.
Well, the thing is,
rock, but it turns into a robot.
Well, how did they not have time?
You have. Go ahead. Great car, great robot. We have robot, and we have rock. What's your selling point going to be? Throw them at the kid you don't like?
Well, I don't see why they didn't have a tie-in where like one of these is Ronnie James Dio and another one is Glenn Danzig, Jimmy Page.
Oh my, that'd be amazing.
I think you've just come up with $1 million idea there.
Thank you.
Rock Lords, at least. What about Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit? No,
That's not rock.
oh.
But I will give you the guys from Faith No More.
All right, there we go. So anyway, I think that about wraps up the history lesson with the GoBots. What do you guys think? Was this something that should have stayed buried in the past, or?
I have feelings I don't know how to describe. These are the first time that I've ever had these feelings in my life, and I don't know how to react. Doctor, please help me.
I had fun with it. You know, it's something I remember from a kid as a kid, but I didn't have as many of the toys. I was a G.I. Joe kid. But I definitely remembered Scooter. I mean, he was the thing I remembered most from the series.
Interesting. Well,
I don't remember nothing about this series. I saw it like a little bit ago, so I liked it.
And you know what? Some of those toys had. So the cartoon, I don't really even recall watching the cartoon that much when I was growing up. The toys, though, they were good. I liked them. They were pocket sized. If you didn't want to bring your expensive, more rare Transformer to the schoolyard, you could bring a GoBot along, and who cares about that, right? Like that got trashed, so be it.
And if you take a Rock Lord, you could throw it at the bully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But it was an interesting time, and there were, I think, a couple of, it could have done well, and I think it was ultimately a result of poor timing, because they came out, as you said, Nolan, it was, which I think was a really fantastic observation. It's basically like having a really great sports team fighting against another team that just outclasses them in every way, and like neither of them is bad. It's just the other one is just better. And that was unfortunately the case with the GoBots, I think, along with some weird designs choices, stylistic choices. Maybe
in a world where Transformers never existed, maybe these could have gotten big. I don't think it would have been the culture sensation that I think Transformers was, but maybe, who knows, it could have grown over time, maybe become more like Transformers and get there. But nope, didn't happen. And instead we got GoBots and rocks. Lots of rocks.
And on that,
they need to bring these back. They need to do like crystal shops, like the rose quartz and stuff, except aim at an entirely new audience and then have the crystals transformed into robots. Let's see if we can get some of the manifestation girls in here. I think this could work.
Oh, actually, they could have alcoholic bottles transform into robots, like a bottle of wine, a bottle of beer, a 2-4.
No. Well, hey, what about some crystals that transform into like Sagittarii and Pisces and yeah, hey,
ooh, bleep that out in the recording. We got $1 million idea right here. If you next time, if in the next episode you guys see us wearing like a bling gold chain, and we have like those big like rich person like braces, whatever, like made out of carat gold, what happened.
Martin, I think Jonas and Pro are going to be putting you in charge of merchandising.
I'll do it.
Where the real money of the movie's made. Just don't make rock toys, please.
I'll take the job.
And on that note, I think we're done for the day. But guys, thank you once again for this stimulating conversation about little toy robots. Can't get enough talking about them. And we will see you next time on the Lost Returner work under construction guys. The Lost Guys. I like the Lost Guys.
The Lost Guys. I that name is really growing on me. The only problem is if we're called the Lost Guys, we have still yet to cover any lost media on this show. The closest thing we had was Viper, where I talked about that old game. So maybe it means
GoBots lost media, wasn't it? No.
The League of Lost.
No, it's not lost because you can still find the episodes unless there's any lost episodes out there.
All right. Well,
so maybe we need to check the old vault and see what we got.
Well,
Maybe we just transition to talking about an episode of Lost each week.
there we go.
Tell me
worry.
now.
Members, if you have any suggestions for Lost media or names, please let us know
Wait a minute.
below in the comments.
Wait a minute. Lost, the island moves by itself. It's a massive thing of rock.
Right.
These rocks transform into human. Oh no.
It's all connected.
That probably would have been a
God.
better ending than what they came up
Thanks,
with.
J.J. Abrams.
Yep. And on that note, we will bid you adieu until next time. And like I said before, if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, if you like the show, if you like the subject, if you want to see us talk about something else, give us your thoughts down below. Do not be shy. We would love to hear from you. And, well, hope you have a wonderful day, night, wherever you may be, and talk to you soon.
Live it up.
Hey there.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Lost Guys here on That Pod Plays. Be sure to subscribe for more content like it, and you can become a member at That Part Place here on YouTube to see more of the Lost Guys every Friday as soon as the guys record an episode. Let us know your thoughts on this intriguing topic in the comments down below. Please comment, like, and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to That Park Place Podcasts Online, your source for exclusive content and highlights from WDW Pro, The Pro Show, and That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.